Welcome to the May 1st, 2013 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda, request for continuance under hearings for a notice of intent. James Lucio, Lot 532, Acapesket Road, East Falmouth, for permission to construct a new 4-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage, deck with stairs, to install a retaining wall, Title V sewage disposal system, dry wells, driveway, trench drain, utilities, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until June 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of a continuance to June 12th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Anastasios Perifestis, 65 Falmouth Heights Road, Falmouth, for permission to dredge 9,000 square foot area to a depth of 10 feet by removing approximately 300 cubic yards of material from Falmouth Inner Harbor for the benefit of 65 Falmouth Heights Road. The project includes harvest and relocation of shellfish from the dredged area, dewatering the material on a barge, deposition into trucks, and transportation to another waterfront location for beach nourishment and to create a coastal dune. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until June 5th.
June 6th,
5th.
5th, so moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is a continuance to June 5th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Now we come to Michael George, 45 Dusty Miller Road, Falmouth, for permission to construct and maintain 2 house additions, a porch addition, to remove and abandon a portion of the existing driveway to be converted to lawn, construction of a new driveway, retaining walls and steps, installation of a new Title V sewage disposal system, drainage utilities, mitigation and restoration plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant was requesting another continuance until July 15th.
And for those of you on the board who can remember this case, I believe this is the 5th continuance.
It was filed back July or August of 2012.
So, this is, don't we have a 3 strikes and you're out?
Right.
So, what's our board denying the continuance? Is that the,
So what we could do is put a positive on and not vote for it.
Do we know what's holding things up?
They're in continued negotiations with the abutter.
Which has been what the discussion was the last time and the time before. I mean, at this rate, we won't have a quorum.
That's correct.
Motion to continue till July 15th.
Second?
Okay, does anybody have any comments? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so no continuance, so it is on your agenda later this evening. Raul, will you let Mr. McGrath know that we will need to hear from him before we get to that on our agenda item, and if not, we will open and close it, and that won't be a good thing. Thank you.
There's 1 abstention as well.
Right.
Madam Chairman, the
you did.
applicant's
I was nay.
representative
Oh, you did.
is aware that you might not have continued this, so I'm sure that Raul will come back and withdraw. I'm hoping.
Okay. Okay, minutes. First minutes are,
Madam Chairman, can you hold 1 second?
who seconded?
Said yes. Who's in favor?
He said
trying to
yes,
get a
Ed
yes.
said yes.
2 in favor, 1 abstention.
1 abstention and 4 denial. Oh, well, you didn't. Yeah, you didn't vote at all,
No, I
right.
didn't vote on it, that's why.
Because if you actually vote to abstain, it's a negative vote. So if you have to recuse yourself, you should probably just recuse yourself
Then
from the
call me
vote.
recused from that, please.
February 13. I've read it.
I would make a motion to accept the minutes as substantial.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. February 27th.
I move to accept as substantially complete.
Second.
Okay, any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. March 5th, I read those. They look fine to me.
And I would make a motion to accept the March 5th as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. March 6th,
I've read them, they're in order, I move their acceptance.
Second.
I have a couple, these are minor things, and I'll send it over. It's,
My motion is amended with corrections.
okay, it's just, it's, you saw that I had an A zone rather than a B zone. And it also says, we started with a discussion on land subject to coastal storm flowage. And it says Jen and I looked at our regulations and compared them with other towns. We did compare them with a couple of towns, but we intend to do them with more. There were some towns that I was told had stricter regulations than we did, but in fact, it turned out not to be the case. But at least we followed those up. So, want to send those? So, Courtney has a motion on the table, and Tommy seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay. Request for a determination of applicability. Patricia Margulis, 15 Lakeshore Drive, East Falmouth, for permission to remove the existing system, install a Title V sewage disposal system, and restore the driveway.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the bylaw and -3 under the state, with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, those of you who might not know this system, a negative determination means you can go ahead and do what you've agreed with with staff. So it's a good, if you want to do this work. Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. William Blumenreich, 61 Minot Road, East Falmouth, for permission to remove 82 feet of cap on riprap retaining wall, drill rebar into existing wall, install forms wall to existing, forms wall?
Yeah, forms
Okay,
wall.
a
just
forms
up,
wall to existing dimensions, pump 4,000 pounds of concrete, fill backside of the wall with 6-inch,
yeah. Chink.
Chink?
Chink,
oh, chink,
yeah,
wouldn't be spelled with a K,
It's okay.
it would.
Okay.
That's okay.
stone, no
Mark
greater
just
than
writes
4
what they
feet from the
write.
wall, install blue crushed stone, remove windblown sand from under house and against house, repair erosion at driveway, and remove all debris created from the scope of work.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed, with the exception of the installation of crushed bluestone.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination with an exception of the crushed bluestone. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, continued request for determination of applicability. John Dowd, 27 Madeline Road, East Falmouth, for permission to pump, fill, and remove the existing cesspools and install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant's requesting a continuance until May 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion on the table? Before I say that, are there any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? All in favor of the motion on the table for a continuance to May 22nd, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Okay, James and Mary Catherine Memory, 42 Brainerd Road, North Falmouth, for permission to reconfigure the existing licensed ramp and float, the installation of 4 float pilings, the installation of 4 foot by 4 foot. That's interesting. It was marked 3 foot by 3 foot out in the field. Landing for the landward end of the ramp and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping. Raul, before I have you, we'll see if Jen has any questions.
Madam Chairman, I don't have any questions, but if you excuse Raul, please start after the downstairs real quick.
Okay. Good evening, Raul.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi, engineer at Holmes McGrath. We're the land surveyors and engineers for the applicant. The applicant is the 42 Brainerd Road Realty Trust. The address is 42 Brainerd Road in North Falmouth. The resources on or within 100 feet of this project is land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, there's a salt marsh, Highmore coastal bank, land subject to coastal flourish, a PVW, and some coastal dunes. The project is the replacement of the existing float with a new configuration flow system, but fixing it with 4 piles. The replacement of the existing ramp to the float, and the replacement or the new construction of a concrete pad, 3 by 3. I know the written application mentions something like 4 by 4, but the proposed work is a 3 by 3 pad.
Okay, and that's what you have on your plan,
That's what we have on the
and
plan.
that's what you had in the field.
Yep. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, just, Jen's not here, but if people were confused, you're back on again. So this is an already licensed and permitted dock, and basically it's to upgrade the dock.
Right.
Okay. Ed, should we start with you?
Can I take a pass for a moment?
You may. Michelle,
No questions.
Mario,
I'm just a little confused. When I was out there, I saw 4 stakes for a proposed building corner, which would represent an increase in the footprint, and I didn't see any reference to that in the notice of intent amendment.
we'd actually, Tommy and I went out to the site, and we're like, but there's an answer.
There is an answer, I'm
There's
sure.
an answer
There
that
must be an
Raul's
answer.
gonna give us.
There's a forthcoming notice of intent for the intention to add some additions to the existing building, but that will be a different notice of intent. We expect to apply for that next week.
Okay.
But currently, those stakes were put on the ground for the owner to look at how the additions are gonna work.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the stakes for
I
this
knew there was an
project, I just,
explanation, the
yeah.
rest of it, yeah, okay.
Okay, and that's all? Mario?
I'm all set.
Okay. Tomas?
The only difference on that 4x4 as opposed to a 3x3 at the end of the dock on the,
But they requested the 3 by 3.
3 by 3.
right,
Yeah.
so that was just a little snafu or whatever. No other questions.
Mike?
There were aluminum stairs going down at the, I guess it's northwest corner of the property and a pathway. Are they a permanent addition, or are they something that blew in the tide?
There's this area over here. There's some stairs that are resting on the riprap. They're removable. I believe the application that's forthcoming for the building addition is gonna note to them to be removed. Right now, all they're doing is just resting on the riprap. They're not attached permanently to anything. But there are some stairs somewhere in this neighborhood.
Right. The thickness of that 3 foot by 3 foot concrete pad?
Yeah, we were talking with the builder. He's anticipating about 18 inches to be dug into the ground to secure. That's what's going to be holding the ramp itself. The ramp is going to be on rollers on the float, so that will be the one that's going to be fixing the ramp, 23-foot ramp.
And the elevation of the two post piles, or the 4 posts you're putting in new piles, you show it at elevation 11. Will the dock float off during that 100-year event?
Well, that's why that's at elevation 11, because the floodplain for a 100-year floodplain is elevation 10. So we have the 1 foot extra. That's the typically elevation that we design for floats. Elevation 11 in the floodplains.
So the bottom of the float is going to be resting on the flotation for the pier.
Right.
If I'm looking at your cross-section and it comes across, that during that 100-year event, with no wave action, the thing can float off.
Right, when he reaches that elevation, the ramp will be like
Yes.
such. So it will still be resting on that back float.
Okay?
Okay. Tommy?
How about mitigation for the small concrete pad?
The plan is not calling out any mitigation.
But it is impervious surface
It is
in the A
impervious.
zone.
The intention is to replace what's currently, for those who were on the site, there's like a step 5 by 10 inch. That's what's pinning the ramp that goes to the existing float. Based on measurement, that's probably like 4 square feet. The pad is 9 square feet, so there's an offset of about 5 square feet. So there's
About a tree worth, huh?
15 square feet.
About a tree worth.
We do have some area here that the forthcoming notice of intent is gonna also plan to vegetate for mitigation. We could select an area somewhere kind of in this area that's already has some vegetation next to it to add that 15 square feet.
Yeah,
We can agree
condition-
to
we can
condition something like that.
Courtney?
All my questions have been answered. I don't have any other ones.
And we'll swing back to Ed.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look through here. I'm not comfortable with the size of the T-section at the end of the dock. It's proposed as 6 feet times 22.5. And I don't recall ever actually approving anything that size in the more than 9 years I've served on this commission. 6 times 22 is, somewhere around 125 square feet, and now our limit is 100 square feet.
It's replacing an existing licensed pier, though.
I'm aware of that, but I'm still uncomfortable with it.
The other thing, if I may add, the proposed footprint of the float is actually 15 square feet less than the existing footprint of the float. The existing main float is 7 by 22.5. We're proposing 6 by 22.5. The existing float has a little section on the back that gives the additional floatable or buoyancy to the stairs. That portion is being replaced with the one that we're showing here. In all, there's a net reduction of about 15 square feet in floatable structure. So even though we're reconfiguring the license, we're actually reconfiguring with less footprint.
That helps, thank you.
Okay, and we can, we have the information that we need. Is there somebody talking in the back row?
Yes, there is.
Gentlemen?
Second.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Motion on the table is to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you, Raul.
Did we receive
Raul, before
the
we
notice to the above?
let you leave the podium, do you have an answer for us on 45 Dusty Miller, or are they coming down?
They're not coming down.
Withdraw?
Withdraw without prejudice.
Thank you very much, Raul. I'm not gonna make you sit here and go through everybody's
But-
projects.
Raul, we
To
are
wait
going to
for
ask
that.
you where the green cards are. You're going to tell us that you're going to bring them in tomorrow morning.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm going to the office and look for them and be back.
Oh,
No,
okay,
Raul,
before
you
the
don't have
night
to
is
come
out.
back. Just bring them tomorrow, have one of the,
I'll do that.
have
Tomorrow
someone
morning,
bring them
fine.
down.
All right, that's fine.
That's
Thanks.
fine. I know where you work.
You're lucky you get to go home.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
Ah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Madam Chairman, I have to recuse myself.
For the next one? Okay. Everybody ready to? Gail Bambrick, 12 Circle Road, McCoy, for permission to remove the existing failing wood retaining wall and dump stones, deck and patio, and to replace and reconstruct in the same area, but with a smaller deck, patio, and retaining wall, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I will save any of my comments until after Jack's presentation.
Okay, good evening, Jack.
My name is Jack Lincoln, I'm a civil engineer in private practice. I've been retained by the Vanderbilt family to prepare and present the plan that's before you this evening. To start with, you've got the green card. And in particular, we also sent a package that is a notice of intent to the Division of Marine Fisheries because we determined, given the activity so close to the water, that it merited a notification to that department, and you have that green card as well. To begin with, the property, starting at the southwest corner, starts here, comes up along this direction, about 141 feet by Circle Road, another 80 feet, and then back again, 149 feet, and it basically butts the westerly side of the Seaport River. We have on this plan shown the resource areas, that is land under the ocean, salt marsh, top of bank, the buffer, the different buffer areas that are required by the Town of Falmouth Wetlands Conservation Commission. We also show the existing conditions out there. Now, at this scale, it's difficult to see, so we blew it up. And this is just an inset of what I had just shown you. In addition to the inset is also a portion of a proposed vegetation plan. As part of the submission, you should have received photographs of this property. And if you don't have them, I do have extra copies.
You might want to pass those out, Jack.
Yeah.
See those in that submission. Yes, we're fine. That's not passing.
To give you a little background, this cottage was built in 1928, or so the assessor's records say. It was purchased by the Bambricks in 1957. In the course of doing our work, we also reviewed the aerial photography of 1960, 1968, and 1975 for two reasons: to ascertain when, and I'll use the term retaining wall, this retaining wall was built, and also to give us some historical perspective of the dock. What I can tell you is we know the dock existed in 1960. We know that the retaining wall existed in 1975, and in the 68 aerial photography, it's a little blurry as to whether or not the retaining wall existed there. I use the term retaining wall in a very loose manner. If you had been out to the site, you'll see that it was, I don't know who thought of building it this particular way, but it was built in such a way that it was dysfunctional, I think, at the very beginning. If you take a look at the pictures, you'll see that when I describe it as an area that hasn't, hasn't been improved, is degraded, has trash there, I'd like to call it a kind of a dump ground, and I'm not really sure of the history of it, and to be fair to the clients, I don't know the history and I didn't ask. However, what we propose to do, I think, is just as important. As part of this proposal, what it is the younger generation of the Bambricks would like to take care of what's been neglected for, I'm guessing, 45 years. We intend to remove this wall, remove the stone that butts up against the salt marsh, removed all the debris that's back here, remove this concrete wall, remove that concrete wall. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to handle this, but remove this platform, keep this concrete wall, again, remove the debris, and then if you look at page 3, you'll see a typical cross-section. What we intend to do is provide some minor grading here and major grading up and through this area. The reason being is we would like to then bring this back to the form it was, I'm guessing sometime after 1957. There's a patio here. There's a concrete, I believe it's concrete patio here, but I have it cross-hatched as to where it presently exists. It was explained to me at one time that this whole area was filled. I think because of the poor construction of the wall, the fact that they hadn't maintained it, a lot of it is basically sieved through the wall and is now trying to regain the normal slope that it had years ago. What we want to do is remove all that and put a deck in this footprint. In addition to that, we want to stabilize this area by, if you make reference to Jack Vaccaro's plan, you'll see that we're going to propose putting a fiber roll at the bottom and plant indigenous plants all along here. In order to do that, we've specified the deck, and let me turn to that page. What is it we'd like to do is remove this, and as I said earlier, regrade this area. Because right now, if you take a look at the property, the grade comes right up to the first floor, which is inappropriate. So what we want to do is, in order to stabilize this area, we want to regrade this, place the deck, place it on sonotubes, and retain it with a vinyl sheathing. It makes sense from an engineering standpoint because what we want to do is we want to assure a couple of things. We want to assure that this area remains stable. We want to assure that the house remains protected. We also want to make sure that these sonotubes, which is, in our opinion, the least invasive way of placing some type of support for a deck, be protected. So we propose a vinyl sheathing here. This will be all above any intertidal area. Having said that, we did get a call from DEP inquiring to that very nature, and that we are moving it all outside the intertidal area of the shoreline. For specific details of the planting, it's in the landscape plan. What we intend to do directly underneath the deck is put a layer of crushed stone just as to stabilize it. But basically, the land under the deck would be flat. That's the proposal before you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Jack, did you say you were putting crushed stone underneath that? The deck?
Under the deck, yeah. The
Okay.
reason being is,
No, I
give-
understand what the site looks like.
okay,
I don't know where to begin, so unfortunately, the project as proposed, Jack, doesn't meet the regulations. If you look at 1018-7E1, you can't have any expansion towards a salt marsh that goes beyond the primary structure or 25 feet, whichever is furthest. I understand your argument is that you have that retaining wall. Is that what you're saying, is that dilapidated retaining wall? But unless you can show me that that wall is licensed, then I can't say that it's legally permitted. So the only expansion under the regulations that would be allowed would be to go to the end of that existing patio. Not only that, is you're expanding that out also laterally, and you're offering no mitigation. And I understand that the notice of intent, you said that you don't think mitigation is required because the land is already altered, but that's not what our regulations say. So, and I know I met you out there.
okay.
And I know but coming back, looking at the regulations, I don't feel that this meets that. I have concerns with the grading that you're proposing underneath. I'm concerned with the installation of that, basically that sheet piling that you're proposing. You're proposing sheet piling with core fibers. I like the restoration part of it. I think that's going to help that area, but this area needs a lot more help. Do you have a license for that retaining wall? I think you said no.
That is correct. I did not find one,
Okay.
which doesn't surprise me, given the age of this.
No, I mean, Jack, no. You may not find an order of conditions for it, but a Chapter 91 license, that goes back to the early 1900s, anything in the water, so.
It goes
age-
back to the 1800s.
Yeah, so
I
age
understand that.
doesn't- Age does not have anything to do with whether or not this structure was properly licensed, because unless you can prove that that was built in 1620, So, I mean, those are just the technical and the regulation issues that you're up against with this project. I applaud the applicant's children with trying to restore part of that marsh. I think more restoration needs to be done to protect that area, to clean up that area. I mean, I remember being out there with you, but taking a look at it again, looking at it against the regulations, it's going to be up to the commission. It's a call they're going to need to make, but those are some of the regulation hurdles you're up against.
I'll respond to that later after the questions by the board.
Okay, Jack, if you think this does have a Chapter 91 license, you can come back.
Always
and-
I don't believe it does, to be honest with you.
don't think it
I don't believe it does.
All right,
Okay, I'm pretty clear, unless it's under some obscure filing system. We looked and looked and looked. But that particular issue, does it have a 91 license? I do not believe so.
okay, then
Well,
then you recognize you can't get any credit.
Then how
For
are you
it.
expanding towards the marsh?
I beg your pardon?
Then how are you proposing to expand that towards the salt marsh? You see where your little red
No,
hatching
I'll
is?
give you the answer. In 1957, when they purchased it, they built the retaining wall sometime after 1960. Actually, they built it, I think, before the Wetlands Protection Act, but not before the Chapter 91 requirements. I acknowledge that. I believe in the conversations I had with the younger Bambrick, she said this whole area at one time was serviceable. That is, they built it, they filled it, they used it, and if you can use even a little bit of imagination, you will see that is probably what they did at one time. Now, the family, over the years, has, I think it's fair to say, haven't put a nickel into this place. I don't know why, I don't really want to know why, but the younger generation says, you know, it's time to save what we have here. So we're starting on the basis that, first of all, they told me the truth, that in fact they did use this area. Having said that, I told them, you're never going to get this same footprint back for a variety of reasons, of which you've articulated probably 70% of them. So I said, what is your goal? How do you want to use this? And so they told me. So I said, well, the only thing I can think of then is we'll push it back, we'll stabilize it, we'll vegetate it, and we'll show a smaller footprint. That is the basis of our argument. Now, I believe, I assume we were going to have a second meeting. I will go back to the Bambricks and see if they can provide physical information. That is a picture or photographs of this area as it was back in the early 60s.
Jack, until you can get a license,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter if you can get
Well,
a picture.
If we're going to have that conversation, any activity above mean high water does not need a license. So if you take a look at the contours, you'll see that mean high water probably was around here somewhere. This is contour 3. This is the salt marsh. This is elevation 2. This is elevation 4. I understand that if you're in tidelands, you need a Chapter 91 license. And quite frankly, I know portions of this retaining wall were in tidelands. But if you go back 5 feet, you're clearly out of tidelands. So one would argue you don't need a Chapter 91 license for a deck. I didn't want to come across with that approach. What I thought is the approach should be, let's get rid of a bad situation and make it markedly better. That was our philosophy. And make it in such a way that it is functional to the client and also not so egregious to the intent of the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaws that it can be approvable. That was our basis. We think we did that.
Okay, we'll have to, we're the ones.
Obviously, you have to make the final say, but I think as a minimum, what I'd like to do is have that dialogue with the Bambricks and see if we can get the physical evidence to make you maybe feel a little more at ease that you're not making a special exception to this applicant that you would make to anyone else.
Well, you recognize that that would be anathema to every person on this board.
I'm sorry,
Anathema?
I'm having a
We
little
would
heartache.
not, no one on this board, I mean, we're sympathetic with your client and your client's needs. However, everyone on this board strives to make every decision fair based to everybody else. We can't make an exception.
Oh, I don't expect you to make an exception. I understand that. But that's the basis for the proposal that is before you, the reasoning we use to get it before you. If in
Right,
fact,
But understand that our reasoning is, when you come before us, whatever you've designed should meet the performance standards of the Wetlands Protection Act. That's how we have to, or the
clearly,
regulations.
I was looking at it from that perspective, and I was looking at it and saying, what do we have here? What are we going to do? How can we improve it? And certainly the do-nothing option is not an option. The other extreme, which is take everything out and vegetate it as with a wetlands habitat, I'm not sure is acceptable either, in that the house is right here, and how would they even circumnavigate around the house? I would argue that they should, as a matter of right, have a 6-foot area around the house to be able to circumnavigate. The fact that they could build a house there legally back in 57, actually it was 1938, 28, I mean, I would think clearly gives them that right to maintain it.
Jack,
That
there are
was-
lots of
that-
houses,
Jack,
very unfortunate for all the homeowners that were built, that were undercut in the past storm, in a number of storms. And just because somebody built in a place and Mother Nature sort of undercut that place, doesn't mean we can build a wall around each of those places.
Oh,
Let's-
I
let's
agree,
go down and-
I agree. In principle,
right.
I agree, yeah.
So,
Okay.
so let's just go down and, down the board with questions.
Absolutely.
I have one more question.
Okay, hold on
Madam
just a
Chair.
second.
Okay.
And then, and then sort of reinvestigate where we
Yeah,
could
we'll see
go.
where we're going after the
All right.
discussion.
Yes.
Jack, put on your notes,
question?
you'll need to look, you'll need to provide mitigation calculations to us. Those weren't provided. Impervious surface, I know you're saying that that whole area is altered, and in your narrative, you stated that no buffer calculations were proposed as all work is proposed to be done in an area that's altered. I would just ask you to go back and look at the regs, because the regs say impervious surface, not altered area. So, whatever increase in impervious surface you're proposing will need to have a 3-to-1 mitigation to meet the regs.
I'm not sure we're providing impervious surfaces. That's what I'm saying. We have a crushed stone base, we have a deck that's porous, and so I didn't think we were increasing, no, we are not increasing the impervious nature. But that's something else we'll discuss later. I'll just write it down.
Madam Chairman, I have no other comments.
Ed, you have a question?
No, but what I'd like to say is what we have before us is something I understand. I think I have sufficient information to make a decision on what's been proposed. And I have to say I'm not inclined to redesign the project on
No.
behalf of the engineer to change its chances of being approved. So I would be prepared, after the other commissioners have an opportunity to speak, I'm prepared to make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Right.
But I will hold back on that
Yeah, but
motion until
I-
other patients have spoken.
And I agree with you. I don't want to redesign the project too, but I just want to make sure that everybody's clear with what's being proposed tonight. Michelle?
I also agree with Ed, but I just have a bookkeeping question, and maybe I just missed it. The buffer zones to the salt marsh, I don't think are shown on the plan. I see buffer A from coastal bank, buffer A and B from pond. So I think that's something that we should have added, unless I'm missing it somewhere. So, just a
You're
minor-
right, it's out by the road. I'll add it.
Okay. And no other questions?
Okay. Tom?
I can understand and truly appreciate the efforts to try to address what historically has not been, it's unfortunate that maintenance of things has not been done in the past. However, it does have some hurdles in front of it. I think that your understanding of, I hope you can appreciate what's being discussed. There is no malice in anyone on this board, but there's also a weight that we carry for, we're not unsympathetic to these issues, but this does not really cross the finish line. This needs to be reviewed, I'll be nice about it, that it's substantially substandard to what we need to be able to approve. It just isn't there. Not that I don't want it to be, and not that I don't think historically the uses and all that, but what was in 28, 57, and further is different now. And to be consistent as a board, we have, that's our goal, is to be very consistent. This is something that is very doable and will be addressed, but to be honest with you, not, as I see it, not in this form. That's it.
Thank you, Mike.
What's identified is the existing deck in the southwest corner of the thing, over in the corner. What's happening there? I haven't got my head wrapped around.
Okay,
Yeah, well, what's happening with that deck?
but this is all to be removed.
Uh-huh. What's happening to that existing deck?
Oh, this?
Yes.
Quite frankly, we're not proposing anything at the moment.
Do you think you can get this thing and have it there when you're finished?
I anticipated all the work was going to be done from this side.
Okay.
And you know what? There's
you're-
so many structural issues here. I sort of narrowed it down to what their desires were first and thought to myself, how can we accomplish this task? And that's why I said we're starting here, we're removing this, and we're removing that. Because I anticipated all the work had to come in from this side and basically work their way out.
Okay, if you look at the sonotubes to the west, not the east, but the west side of those three sonotubes, you show the elevation at elevation .8, more or less, on the bottom. If I take a one-to-one slope back, I'm afraid you're gonna undermine the existing house in trying to get those built. And the fireplace on the north side of this is leaning away from the house or into the house as it sets. And I'm concerned that
You're
if
talking
trying to
about,
construct those sonotubes.
you're talking about this one right here.
Lose the
Yeah.
house.
I don't know how deep the footing is. If you're talking about this one, it is problematic. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well,
And they may have to shore it.
Your plan suggests that it's, 4 feet above the elevation of that tube. I'm just concerned that we're gonna end up with more debris towards the ocean than we had when you started, part of it being the house.
Is it a question, or is it just a comment? I'm a
No,
little confused.
Before this member finally says, okay, I gotta be convinced that we're not going to lose the thing into the ocean.
Okay, I
as well.
understand. Okay,
So
I understand.
you're showing something on paper that I don't quite understand how you'd construct.
Okay. I understand your question now.
Okay, that's fine,
Okay.
and I think that does it.
Tommy,
No question.
Court.
You're gonna check about the, chapter 191 license, or you know there is no.
I will ask again. I'm pretty certain no Chapter 91 license exists.
So walk me through how you can justify rebuilding this. Again,
Okay, right now it occupies tideland waters. Won't deny it. So removing that, we're moving it upland. Chapter 91 license is very clear. If you're in intertidal waters, you need to get a license. Intertidal waters is basically defined by mean high water. If we're above mean high water, theoretically, we don't even need a permit. That's the essence of it, Courtney. So, this, at once, by everyone's understanding today, required it. Back in 1957, I'm not sure what people understood, but they built it there. We recognize that's a problem. We're moving it out of the intertidal area. That's what we're doing.
no other question.
Jack, I have a question. It sounded to me from your testimony that there's been erosion underneath here. Is that correct?
I think, I'll use the term dirt, has gone through that retaining wall.
So,
Because it's old, it's porous, it's like every other retaining wall. In fact, the application you had before you of the riprap wall. It hasn't been maintained, there's no filter fabric behind it, it's eroded. What I would like to do, sort of leading up to it, is I'd like to go back to the Bambrick, see if they can provide me information that supports what we believe, which is this was all filled at one time. This was a patio area, and that because it hasn't been used and it's been neglected, it's eroded. And it has gone through the wall.
so the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so my question is, with this existing plan, how much fill are you planning to put on the,
I'm actually planning to remove it.
you're going to remove?
We're
the-
actually removing, as I said earlier, if you look at the cross-section, we're removing material up here. We're actually flattening the slope. Because right now, the dirt comes up almost to the first floor. There's no way I can physically, or the contractor can physically build a deck that might be 8 inches thick, plus give them 8 inches, I'll use the term freeboard, or about 16 inches. So what we propose to do, and is shown in the cross-section, is remove some of the material here, actually make this flatter. Don't change the slope here. We're going to remove the stones, and Jack Vaccaro has a vegetation plan, and then what we proposed is we were proposing to put vinyl sheathing here for 2 reasons. One, to pick up some of the vertical difference, but also to make it so that this area wouldn't wash down on the plant community that's in this area. And because it's flat, it would be more stable. That was the thinking. Lower it 2 feet so we could actually fit the deck in there properly, make it flatter and more stable, put the sheathing in so we could pick up the vertical difference, and we could protect the plants at the bottom, at the same time protect the sonotube.
And what about the gravel that I heard about?
Well, the fact of the matter is, either it's going to be, or it's going to be a sandy, it could be a sandy loam, it could be sand. We propose to put gravel there because after they regrade it, and before they build a deck, that's the last time you're going to have access to that. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to put down basically a layer of crushed stone, because it would be more stable. You wouldn't get rodents in there, or less likely to get rodents, things of that sort. I know you're not designing it for us, but if you have an issue with that, I'll take that message back and I'll look at it again. I thought it was the best treatment.
No, I just want to be clear what.
Okay. So I certainly have some homework to do. I have actually a question, and that is, would this board, in its thought process in dealing with the regulations, would this board be amenable to giving us credit for this area that's already, well, that has something there already, whether it be wood or concrete? Because I'm hearing a couple things. I'm hearing that it's complete non-compliance with the regulations, which I have to agree with you. If this were,
Yeah.
if this was being proposed now, I would never even propose it.
Jack,
So-
I need you to go back and read the regulations. Where is the primary structure on this property?
Go
Where's
back
the
and ask
primary-
yourself where the primary structure is.
yourself where
What's
the
footprint
primary
of the primary
structure is.
structure? And then go from there.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I
okay,
suggest.
okay. Yeah, because we've obviously interpreted it differently, but I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Interpreted what?
Primary structure. I consider this part of the primary structure to the house.
That is a pile.
Is it
That's
a
not
habitable
a problem.
area? No, but it's part of the primary structure. It's that area you circumnavigate around a house, that's that area you
Primary
use outside.
structure, the footprint of the building. The footprint of the building, the existing footprint, the existing primary structure, not the primary structure in the area that you walk around it, Jack. We don't consider lawn to be primary structure.
I'm not supposing that.
Okay.
I'm looking at it, I'm distinguishing between man-made versus vegetated. Let's put it that way. But I understand the message you sent. It's clear to me.
Okay, I have one more message to give you.
Oh, limited work
Okay.
plan too, Jack.
Did you get that, limited work? That's not my message. My
I
message
wanna know how
is,
you're getting a grader down there.
also, don't get confused. In the A buffer zone, which this is all the A buffer zone, to the salt marsh. First of all, if you have a deck and then you have gravel, that's a fairly impermeable surface. But the fact is, it's a surface that will not support any plant growth. Just think about that when you're redesigning.
Yeah.
So you would like a continuance?
He hasn't asked for it.
Wait a minute, I
No,
have
he
one
said he
other
was gonna
question,
have,
Jack.
he said he was gonna ask for a continuance.
Where's
Right.
your construction access? Around that side? Can you show the construction access?
Construction access is on this
Be-
side.
Okay, because you're gonna need to show that, because we're gonna make sure, we have to make sure that you can get now you're gonna be grading underneath and everything. You're gonna have to get a machine down in there, and that's gonna be awfully close to that salt marsh. So you're gonna have a machine in that area,
Yeah,
and
our-
that is something I am tremendously uncomfortable with.
Just so you know, the limit of work was intended to be this retaining wall, to leave it in place until the majority of this work was done. That was it. We would cut it down. The construction access, I think is described in the narrative, is coming from this direction.
Could you, just
But-
to-
but
just
that's
so
all right.
we don't have to
It-
guess where the limit
Not a
might
problem,
be, can you
not a
put it
problem,
on?
but
Map, please, Jack.
I got the message.
We don't have a construction methodology in this, so if you could provide one, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ed, I believe Jack said he wanted to go back and talk to his clients.
Yeah, I'm wishing he had spent some more time of working things out with staff before putting this
I
whole
went out
thing
there.
together and spending all this time with this commission. But,
I can't even remember how long ago it was, though, Jack. It was a while ago.
Jack, when would you like a continuance to? Jen will give you some,
How
well,
long do you need, Jack?
first of all, think of how long you need.
Probably a month.
June 5th?
Okay.
Does that work? Can you get
Yeah.
everything to us, if you get everything to us by the week of Memorial Day?
Yeah, it has to be 7 days earlier, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
I guess that should do it.
On behalf
So,
of the,
on
Let's put a
behalf of,
motion on the table, and then we'll give you some final words.
on behalf of the applicant, I'd like to move this till 6/5/13.
Second?
Any final?
I would, through the
What?
chair, I'd like to
Yeah.
just tell the applicants, please don't give up hope
No.
and realize
No, no,
that this is a doable project. It just needs to be refined. This is something that, to be a good steward of your property, I want to give words of encouragement. It's just going to have to be different than what it is. That's all.
Okay. Anything? Court, did you have any? Jack, did you want to? Let me see if there are any questions from the audience. No? Did you want to say anything else before we take the vote?
no, thank you very much.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on
Did
the
we say
table
June?
for a continuance to June 5th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I am opposed.
Okay,
Okay.
you get that, Susan? 6-4, 1 opposed. 6 aye, 1 nay.
Oh,
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
can I have one set?
Cue up Mike here.
Can I have one set?
Robert Rotondi, 92 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, for permission to renovate and expand the existing single...
This is complete, this is Shiloh. Sorry about that, Biff.
That's fine. Renovate and expand the existing single-family house with 2 new additions, deck expansion, reconfigure the driveway, and expand parking to install a covered portico, sidewalk, retaining walls, AC unit, utilities, dry wells, native mitigation plantings to repair and expand the existing dock and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
I'll hold any of my comments until after Mr. Griselli's presentation.
Good evening, Mike.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. I have a butters cards.
Okay. That's good. Good start.
The Rotundis recently acquired this property at 92 Edgewater Drive East. It's on the Seacoast Shores Peninsula of Falmouth in East Falmouth. It borders the Childs River, which is land under the ocean and land subject to tidal action. There's a narrow band of salt marsh at the base of an existing non-eroding, very stable coastal bank. There's an existing 3-bedroom, single-family dwelling on the property. The applicant's proposing to renovate and expand the footprint of this existing three-bedroom dwelling, but there will be no increase in bedrooms. There is an existing Title V septic system on the property, so there's no proposals to do anything with the existing Title V septic system. To me, this is a classic redevelopment project, and I think it fits the regulations found at FWR 10.18. And I'll go through the provisions of that section that I know you all know very well, but basically the project's been designed to meet that section of the regulations by not moving we're not expanding the structure in a way that it moves any closer than the present primary structure. We have calculated the difference between the current conditions on the site, impervious surfaces, or pervious surfaces that won't support natural vegetation in the A zone, in B zone of the most restricted wetland resources. In this case, the non-eroding coastal bank meets the definition in your regulation that requires a 50-foot no disturbance zone, A, and then a 50-foot outer buffer zone, B. Those are shown on the plan. The salt marsh edge and its associated 100-foot no disturbance zone, A, are shown on the plan, and that boundary is here. So the no disturbance zone A of the coastal bank actually is the more restrictive of the two A zones. And then, of course, there's no B zone to the salt marsh, so the outer buffer zone B of the coastal bank also comes into play because the sidewalk and driveway are in that. So we did a comparison. Your plan set shows an existing conditions plan, sheet 1, and a proposed improvement site plan, sheet 2. And there's a summary of impervious surface calculations on here. Goes through that math. And the net result is that we're required to mitigate with a substantial amount of mitigation planting. In this case, the total amount required is 2,470 square feet. And your regulations require it to be in a place where it enhances any existing buffers, or so it's planted adjacent to those. This darker green area is the existing vegetated buffer. There's a break in it because there's an existing dock. The lighter green is the area all along those buffers, and then it runs up the side. That equals an equal area to those required mitigation areas that are spelled out in the notes on the plan. So we think that, and this project was designed with these regulations in mind, we worked with the architect to ensure that we didn't go any closer to the wetland resources, and that the net increases were equal, were offset with mitigation planting equal to or greater than that. There's one tree, a 20-inch oak tree. It's in the outer buffer B of the coastal bank, and it's in an area that we're requesting permission to remove it because the driveway change to try to regrade the driveway area would result in damage to the root system, and we just don't think that the tree could survive. We're proposing to mitigate that tree removal by planting 3 new oak trees in the same general area in the outer buffer zone B, right after the regrading occurs, 3 3-inch caliper oaks, and they're spaced out 15 feet apart so that they can not be in conflict with each other when they grow. That's a standard separation that staff has advised us to use. We're mitigating roof runoff. There's a couple roof drains that don't work, and then part of the house doesn't have any roof drainage at all, so we're proposing dry wells. We show our limit of work. There is an existing dock on the property. It is licensed. We submitted the license as part of the application. And the applicant thought it made sense to include in this application permission to remove some of the deck boards because they're rotted and starting to fall apart. And if you visited the site, the access to the dock is kind of difficult. It's about 2 feet off the ground, so you have to really step up to get onto the dock. So we're asking permission to put a little ramp off the end of it to ease the access. The decking that we're proposing to remove and replace does cross a piece of salt marsh, so we're proposing that to be sunlight, 50% sunlight penetration decking. And there's no seasonal water service or electric to the dock, so we've also asked permission to install the seasonal water service and electric to the dock. I think that summarizes all the work that's proposed. I believe that this meets your standards as well as the Wetlands Protection Act standards and regulations, and I'm here to answer questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. It was a pretty site.
Thanks.
Jen?
Yes, Mike, you gave me the license plan. I want the actual wording too, because I can't really tell if this is in conformance with the license, so any other information you have, like the cross-section that usually they give it and the actual document would be helpful. Because I couldn't tell. I tried. The pilings look right, but.
I'll try to provide that to you. What I did was I scaled off the Chapter 91 plan, the length of the dock.
Yeah.
And I also scaled where it was in relationship to the existing house, and it was consistent with that. But
Okay, just
I'll
if
do
you
what
give
I
that, and the flow-through decking, you don't think you'll have to replace the whole dock to put that decking in? It'll match up with the current width of the dock, or you can cut it to match?
It comes in varying standard widths, and there is a width that's available for this. If it's not exactly the same width, they can either cut off the edge or it might.
Okay, no, that's fine, I just didn't want, poor staff to go out there and see the whole thing rebuilt. So you're just doing that one section, and you'll need, I know you're providing the 3 trees for the one you're removing in the front, so thank you for that, but the regs also say that for every 1,000 square feet of mitigation, you have to give a tree, so I think.
It was pretty good. You did a pretty good
You
job.
did, you tried.
It was close.
You were close.
So do I need one more tree?
No, you need a couple more, but we can condition that, you don't have to show them on the plan, we'll condition them in the mitigation area. So if you want to put them in the, on the plan and submit it for next week, since you don't have a DEP number, we
Yeah, I just
discussed
soon do
that.
that so that it's consistent with the order. You know.
When did you submit this to DEP?
Oh, probably, well, the day we filed, which was, it's probably only been about 21 days. It's been 21 days.
Okay, so she should have I'm sure if you give her a call, she'll get you a DEP number by next week, so.
Well, if it makes sense to continue with 2 weeks, just to make sure.
Okay, that's
Oh, you
fine,
don't have
whatever
the
you would
DEP?
like, Mike.
Mike, the plan that we had when we went out into the field yesterday, and the plan he has, and the plan he has, and the plan that I talked to the neighbors about, showed a driveway.
You
Yeah.
should all be looking at a plan with the revision date of April 23rd. I always should check with you guys on that. April 23rd?
No,
No.
April 12th.
April 23rd.
Don't look at me, you were all given April 23rd.
Well, look how proud she is.
Well, I
I'm
can
just
explain
lucky.
what happened. We filed originally the April 12th plan,
Yeah.
and I filed it without final review by my client, and that turnaround, that
Yeah.
backing out area,
Yeah,
which actually required more mitigation plan.
right. That's what,
He didn't really want that, and it required some retaining walls, so we decided to eliminate that, and I submitted revised plans with the April 23rd
Okay.
date, which reduced the,
Madam Chairman, do you want a copy of it, or?
no, I can see, Mike has
I'm
a,
glad you can see that, because I can't.
that's, the see, the
Yeah, I know, I
new
need
glasses, the color
I'm told I'll
coded.
be wearing those shortly.
Okay, questions? Mike, we'll start with you.
With the proposed additions, does the number of bedrooms change?
No. There's 3 in the house today. There will be 3 when this is done. They'll just be nicer, bigger rooms.
When you do the calculations for rooms, you come up with, that's fine. The proposed addition to the east or north side? That is over, no, the other end, excuse me, yeah. That's a garage under with an addition above?
Yeah, there's pavement here now. It occupies some pavement.
Yes,
And I think this garage doors in the end of the existing
Right.
house.
yes.
The new garage doors obviously will be over here, and it'll be garage under. In other words, that level will be the basement level. And you'll have to go up 1 flight of stairs to get to the first floor level from inside.
Okay, so it's just that garage that is in the flood zone?
Just this garage, yes.
Just that corner, okay. No further questions?
That's it. Tommy?
I have a question for the neighbors. Where is he gonna park his boat now? When it's out of season? Can that fit in the garage?
His boat's there now?
No, it's not.
But it sometimes is.
Oh, I don't know anything about the boat.
Okay.
The garage I thought was for cars, but I believe it's gonna be a year-round house, so I'm not sure about the boat.
Maybe we'll go to the yard for the season.
Well, Court,
I have no questions.
Tom,
They've been answered, thank you.
Mario.
There's a lot to like about this, Mike. I certainly like the amount of lawn area that's coming out for the plantings. That's great for the Charles River. And of course, the pier is definitely in disrepair. It looks like it's going to fall in any time now. So certainly you can't argue with a renovation of that. I just had a couple of quick questions. According to the numbers I have here, there'll be an increase of 430 square feet of impervious surface inside the 50-foot buffer zone. Is that right?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
Is there any way that that can be somehow or other diminished? An increase in impervious surface within the 50-foot buffer, I got a little bit of a problem with that. Is there any way that we can get that figured down?
People are allowed to do that within the regulation. That's within our regulations, that people are allowed to do that.
To increase impervious surfaces within the 50-foot buffer? Okay, I stand corrected.
Well, as long as we mitigate.
Right, and it's a 3-to-1 mitigation for that.
Right, right. And the coastal bank itself, it doesn't look like much of a coastal bank. I mean,
Well, it meets DEP definition because it's steeper than 10 to 1.
what's that, 4-to-1 slope?
10 to 1.
Oh, 10 to 1, that's right, 10 to 1.
So
Okay,
what most people would envision being a coastal bank
right, right.
is much different.
And it's all lawn, right? I mean, the coastal bank is basically lawn.
Yeah, it's grass with, it's treed,
It's
you know,
trees.
with understory lawn.
Okay. Just one other question. That 20-inch oak, okay, it looks to me that you might be able to save that tree by jogging the driveway a little bit or using a tree well, perhaps. It's a substantial tree,
Well, I
20-inch.
thought about a tree well, but I've only seen tree wells in a fill situation. We're actually doing about a 2-foot cut here. And what I'm concerned about is the root system around the tree if you do it. I think if you did a 2-foot, I believe it's a 2-foot, yeah, it's about a 2-foot cut next to that tree.
Yeah,
It's gonna interfere with the root system. That was why I didn't propose a tree well.
so there's really no way that you could,
I tried to think about ways to do it, and I really couldn't come up with anything.
so you can't reconfigure that driveway just a little bit?
Well, it's not really the reconfiguration of the driveway because the 2 garage doors are here and you need to get access to the 2 garage doors. And then you need to back out and then it tapers back.
Yeah.
It's also an extremely steep driveway, so to make it less steep, we regraded here slightly, which unfortunately means the tree, which is right near the existing driveway, I think it's gonna be threatened by the regrading.
And you're replacing the oak?
Yeah, we're gonna replace it with 3 trees, and I guess more trees because I missed that
Well,
one.
you replace the oak with 3 and then
That'll
more
be
for-
replaced with 3 3-inch calipers. So it's not caliper inch equivalent, but it's 3 trees for 1.
Okay, no questions. No further questions.
Michelle.
The retaining wall that is just to the southwest of the driveway,
Yes.
what is that wall gonna look like? It seems like it's going to be greater than is it gonna be right about 4 feet? What's the bottom of the wall there?
It's actually, that wall, if I can get a little credit, was so that we could save that tree, the other tree. We are saving the 18-inch oak.
Not that wall, the wall just up from to the
I was
south.
trying to get some credit.
By the
That,
house.
that wall is very nice, Mike.
That's good, Mike, we
That
like
would
it.
we give you
Nice wall.
That
credit
was
for
a good
that?
one.
no.
The other one, no, the one right
No,
next
no,
to the
down.
driveway.
By the driveway.
By the
Go to
driveway.
the driveway,
Right
there,
there you go.
that one. How big is that wall? Is that your question?
Yes, I think.
How high is that wall?
In some places, is it
It's,
4 feet?
at the top, it's gonna be elevation 14, and at the bottom, it's 9.8, so it's
10
4.2.
foot.
So you'll need
At
an,
the highest.
So we'll need some sort of
You want detail?
yeah.
or some, I mean, that's as walls go. It's
Sure.
Not just a little wall.
We wouldn't want it to collapse,
We would not
into
want
the
that to
driveway.
collapse on the driveway.
and neither would Mike.
That would-
I am also concerned with the impervious cover, but for a little different reason. What used to be a very gentle swale of sorts, bringing the runoff down this property from the existing driveway, now is going to have an addition in its place, and everything is going to be graded, it looks like, to the northeast along the edge of the driveway and then off into the yard. And it's gonna be a significant amount more runoff because the driveway is much bigger, it looks like. And there's a sidewalk. Did you have, I mean, right now, I think it just is designed to just flow off the driveway into the yard. Is there any,
Yeah, I had a feeling you might bring this up.
am I that predictable?
It's, right now, this driveway
Tommy,
comes
don't get
down,
brought up if
sheet
you have-
flow, and where this is proposed is more pavement, but it's flat, so it sheet flows off, and then the velocity probably slows down, and it seeps over the grass. This is designed to sheet flow, but, the driveway, the doors at the garage have to be slightly higher, so there's a slight pitch this way, so the water comes down and then runs this way. And this is designed just to sheet flow over Falmouth-friendly lawn, which I thought was a good thing, if the grass gets stable, once the grass is stabilized.
Well, it's going to be a lot more concentrated. I mean, you have a 9.5 spot grade there, so, I mean, it makes it seem like there's going to be one pretty small area where the water is going to exit the driveway. So you could have erosion problems, but you also now have a lot more potentially polluted stormwater runoff flowing down towards our salt marsh.
So
I mean, I could add it up. I mean, I didn't do the,
I could propose a small drain there.
maybe a small drain or just a shallow, not even swale of sorts. It doesn't have to be
You just
a
fill it with
ditch, but
gravel.
with plants or something, I don't know, something to mitigate what could be coming off this driveway, which it's pretty steep still. When it's raining, it's gonna have high velocities and pollutants associated with
Yeah,
it.
If you
So
could just cut down the velocity a little bit.
slow it down,
Settle stuff
soak it
out.
up a little bit.
I think
that would be
a drain would be more appropriate. I mean, I would be happy to do plant material, but if we did plant material here, it's right where the access is around the house. I just have a feeling it would be,
You could be creative to use some sort of culvert under the access to it.
Okay.
But I'll leave that up to you.
All right.
But vegetation is better for removing pollutants than, if by drain you mean a dry well. So for runoff from driveways, dry wells with no pretreatment do have a tendency to clog and don't remove, particularly nutrients as well. And do I have one more question? Just confirm, you're not moving any closer to the resource with your primary structure, just to make sure? Where is the closest existing primary structure?
You'd have to
Because
look
I think I was a little confused.
look at sheet one,
Oh, see, that's why I only have the sheet.
the existing conditions plan.
71 and 95, okay. I think Ed has cleaned it up for me, thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Ed?
Well, I think a lot of good questions have already been asked, so I'm not gonna ask any more, although I'm a little curious as to why, in my mind, they sort of flip-flop the plan. Because I would expect to see it the other way, because Child's River should be on the east of this property. And you sort of,
It is,
Get it
it's just
upside down,
the,
isn't it?
yeah.
just not the usual way it's done.
You mean, oh.
Where your north
relative to
arrow is.
north?
Yeah,
I think he wanted to get us to think a little bit.
okay.
It's a south
Well,
arrow.
maybe stand on our heads a little bit to
Well, this-
read it.
You're right, you're right. It's just the way I configured it and how it fit on the sheet.
Just a novel approach. Right.
You did give us the direction arrow. Okay. Any other questions?
I have one over here.
Oh, but not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I haven't forgotten that you're there. Are you gonna wanna continue? What we're gonna do is we put a motion on the table and then, but we don't vote until we take questions from the audience. Mike, you need to have a continuance anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm requesting a continuance to, I believe, 2 weeks from now, if it's available, so I can provide the added information.
2 weeks is the 15th, right?
Yes.
It's the first, plus
It is the
14,
first.
it's 15. Jen? Is that available?
Yes.
On behalf of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to May 15th.
Second.
Okay, now, Courtney, I'll get to you in just a minute. Courtney, you have a question?
I'm just looking at the grades on the proposed driveway. And you're an inch plus below the surface of the driveway once you get into the lawn area to the right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, I think it's a little bit of an engineering issue, but looking down the road, grass has a way of acting as a dam. So over time, and not very long, the sediments that wash down the driveway are gonna create a dam right there.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And so I guess my question is, maybe as you design this, since you've got to go for a continuance, that you look at that so that it doesn't become an issue within a year.
Sure.
Need a couple inch drop.
Yeah. I think I have something in mind.
He knows it's a problem. He's gonna redesign it to his satisfaction and our satisfaction, right, Mike? Okay. Now, I know we have some questions from the audience. Sir,
Yeah, I'm talking about the,
but the rules are you have to come up.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I should run for election.
Well, we could tell yesterday that you're not shy, so come up and introduce yourself and ask your question.
My name's Peter Sheehan, I live at 86 Edgewater Drive East. And the question I'm asking is, this mitigation right here, is this right on the property line, edge of the property line?
Yes.
Or is it inset a little bit?
Well, it's right now on that plan, right on the property line.
And does it have to be there?
No.
Okay, because that, the other thing is, what are you planting
Well, we're gonna plant, through you, Madam Chairman?
Yes.
We're gonna plant.
I don't know what the answer
Well, we're
to
gonna
this
plant,
is, so,
we're proposing to plant a shrub layer, so the average height will be about 4 feet. It's gonna be a mix of probably bayberry and beach plum, but we're gonna work out the details of the actual plants from a list that the Conservation Commission has. We're gonna propose those prior to construction, but it's gonna be native plant material, relatively low growing, nothing that's, we were, I'm sure you're concerned with view, and we're cognizant of the issue with view. I'm proposing anything that would have an impact on the view.
And you looked at different plans to see that this is the best one that will win.
Yes, the ones that we're proposing are from a list that the Conservation Commission has.
Okay, and the other side is just taking the 4 feet high would be the highest height.
Madam Chairman, that cannot be guaranteed through this hearing process. Your regulations state that mitigation plantings cannot be cut to less than 5 feet in height, and some of the plant materials that will be required on this property do grow that high. So for Mr. Borselli to say yes to that, I just think is not appropriate, because there's no way you can guarantee that.
well,
There's
the
no way
neighbor-
Mr.
the neighbor's
Borselli
just
can
asking.
guarantee that.
The neighbor's just,
No, I understand that, that's why I'm clarifying.
Yes, and I expect something not to be very high, to take away our views, or the uses of the property along that line.
yeah,
I'll look into that.
Right.
I understand the concern, and I may make
a modification
I may
of,
make a modification.
Yeah, just
and
flip them over
to
there,
where
yeah.
they, yeah,
wider and remove over there. I
Yeah.
have to speak, I can't commit to that without talking to my client.
right, right, but
There's
Mike
another-
is aware of
Oh,
what your
yes.
concern is, and he'll talk to your neighbor.
And of course, the other thing is with the driveway, we live on this side of the house, so would there be problems with the runoff on that new driveway?
There won't be once Mike designs a system to avoid that runoff. And that's what we were talking about with you. We could see the
Yeah,
sheet
no.
runoff from the driveway.
Yeah, I can see that running down that.
Right,
yeah.
after I said that to you, I think you looked over and said, that does look a little different.
Yeah, but there's gonna be a turnaround there, on the driveway?
No turnaround.
No, it's gonna be like that. I had the
Alright.
old plan that I showed you.
Okay, all right. That's all I have to say.
There was a turnaround, if I could.
Right.
There was a turnaround proposed,
Yeah.
no longer proposed.
Okay. And about the height of the house,
You-
that stays the same?
Right, that, and I told you, that doesn't have to do with us, but you could ask Mike and
Yeah.
he'll give you the answer.
No, the house will get taller. There's a proposal to put a second story.
Oh, there is?
Ladies,
This is coming in the next
No,
rounds.
it's part of this plan proposal.
See, for the most part, for a project like this, we're just interested in what the footprint is,
Yeah.
but you can ask Mike to see what the building plans are.
How
Because
high
that would
will
go, after they get this, then they go to building.
How high will that roof be above grade?
I think the ridge will be 30 feet above grade. I don't have the architectural plans, but it'll be within the maximum allowed height by zoning is 35
Yeah.
feet.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you, Mike. Yes. You have to come up to the microphone and tell us all who you are.
I've been waiting.
Okay,
yeah, 'cause they're putting a second floor on.
My name is Amy Robinson. I live at 46 Harvard Drive, and I'm in a butter. And we were just concerned, we wanted to know if we can have copies of the house plans for review. One of my neighbors isn't here. He's in Florida right now, and we just wanted to know if we could look at what was really going to happen. Two of us are really concerned about our existing water views. Like,
okay, that would, I don't know what the process is, but building would have those, right? We don't have those.
okay.
We have a footprint plan. Architecturals, we don't have for this particular property. Sometimes we do request them for various reasons. It's not
really
necessary
need
for
them.
the Conservation Commission to obtain the architecturals for this particular project. There is a second floor going on this, so I would talk to the applicant's representative and the building department to see if you could get a copy of those architecturals.
Okay. And as a butters, this is all new to me, do we have any say in this,
In the
in
architectural,
anything?
you may absolutely comment on the plan that's right next to you. This board is concerned and operates under, their authority is under the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, so if it does pertain to impacts to wetlands, stormwater does fall under that because it could impact wetlands, so that's why they were talking about the runoff. You absolutely can make a comment, submit it in writing if you'd like. As far as an existing view goes, that is something this board does not regulate. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right, thank you.
If you want a copy of this one too, ma'am, we can try to give it to you. We can scan it, or you can get it from Mike.
Okay? Do you have a question? Do you have a comment? A question or a comment? Come on up.
My name's Jean Shea, and I'm in a butter, and I have a question as to existing bedrooms, you said 3, and bathrooms.
I don't remember, Madam Chairman,
Yeah.
the number of bathrooms.
Okay, septic goes by
Bedrooms.
Bedrooms,
Okay.
right.
I'm under the impression that there's 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and I'm thinking that would require additional septic.
Mike?
Well, I am going by the assessor's records and a walkthrough, and there is no increase in bedrooms proposed for this. There's no increase in bedrooms.
There's 3 bedrooms on the first floor and 1 in the basement and 2 bathrooms.
If what you're saying is true, then there's no more than that number of bedrooms in the proposed house. But is no increase in bedrooms. If you want to count the bedroom and the room in the basement as a bedroom, that's fine. But there's no more than whatever number of bedrooms are in this house after construction, the same number of bedrooms will exist. And if there were some issue with that, the Board of Health did not approve it, and it would have to be looked
So
at.
they would go and look at it?
When we apply for the building permit, the Board of Health reviews the bedroom count and makes sure there's no increase in bedrooms by bedroom definition.
And it's doing a second story on the primary structure
Yes,
and doing our garage with a room over
yes.
and another addition. And none of that will be bedroom space.
I don't have the architectural plans with me, but I will tell you however this is reconfigured, there will be no increase in bedrooms. And this
And
board
that's up
can
to
make it
the
a
town,
condition.
I'm sorry.
Well,
board
it's the building department looks at the building plans, and there are definitions of bedrooms, and the health department will look at the building plans, will look at the existing house, and will look at the building plans, and will determine whether there's an increase. If
Okay.
there was an increase, there would have to be an increased septic system. This is, right? This has a,
In fact, we advised our client not to increase bedrooms because he cannot, it would be difficult for him to increase the size of the septic system and meet all of the requirements.
okay.
Okay, I'm just hoping that that's 100% covered. Do you understand where I'm
No,
coming from?
I do understand where you're coming from, but where we're coming
We can't
from is,
guarantee that.
You're-
our
that
authority is
doesn't have
under,
anything to do
is
with
under the
it. You're
wetlands.
just saying as, okay.
Right.
So the next step would have to address that.
right, so the next step is to actually see the architecturals, and then they need to get a building permit, and they need to get a sign off from the Board of Health.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, one other thing, ma'am, if the health department does determine that there is going to be an increase of bedrooms and an upgrade is needed to that system, that upgrade will need to come before this board.
Okay.
Yeah, it will come
Okay.
back, right.
It'll come back to us.
Okay.
So they're not able to just put in a new septic without this board reviewing it, the Board of Health reviewing it. I don't know, does Board of Health review little septics like that, Mike? Do they review single lot septics or just variances, Board of Health?
They look at every
Okay.
building permit
Yeah,
application.
no, I meant for a hearing before them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay. And so it would have to come back before this board if the septic needed to be enlarged or upgraded.
Okay. And the water runoff issue, I live across the street. The water goes pouring, goes over, takes dirt from the road, from my yard, and it goes rushing down into Childs River.
Yeah, well, you could see that from the vegetation. Yep.
Thank you.
But Mike knows
We're gonna
that
make
we're,
that, but we're
Mike
gonna
knows
fix
we're
that.
concerned, so he's gonna design
Look at
something.
that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
If road runoff is contributing to that, keep that in mind when you,
Well, I've
Design your-
already looked at the site. There's a berm. There's a berm here, and there's a drain here. The town has a drain here. No water from the street jumps the curb and goes down there, but
In a really big storm,
Yes.
I'll bet it does.
It does.
well, I will tell you what I observed, and I will design something that will make it better than it is today. How's that?
Yeah, I'm saying it based on my observation. Tommy and I went out there, we talked to the neighbor, and I said, wow, I said, you must get big floods here sometime. Because you can see it you can see there's a big sheet.
What happens is there's
Flow.
a low point here.
probably
Well,
comes over that.
it looked like it was coming right down the driveway, and
It could be coming right
into
from
the
the
river.
road, right from the catch basin area.
Well, that's a town problem, if it's that, or it's the association's problem.
yeah, well, you could see it coming right from the driveway right towards the river.
Yeah,
It's
I
a change in
understand.
vegetation.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table for a continuance to May 15th. Are there any other questions from the board? Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of a continuance to the 15th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, for your comments and your presentation. Okay, those of you who are leaving, if you want to discuss this, either go out the door or way down the hall. Because we, you're going to go home, good for you.
On the local bar.
All right, bye-bye.
Janet, can I please take?
Okay, continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent. The first we have is Michael George, 45 Dusty Miller Road, which has been withdrawn without prejudice. Next, we have James Lucio, lot 532 Acapesket Road, which is continued to June 12th. Next, we have Anastasios Perifestis, 65 Falmouth Heights Road, which has been continued to June 5th. Next, we have Black Beach Harbor Head Association, Little Neck Bars Road, Black Beach Hills Road, Gilbert Lane, and Drift Road, West Falmouth, for permission to implement proposed road maintenance and storm water management improvements that includes vegetated swales, an addition of dense grade crushed stone along approximately 1 mile of private gravel roads, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen,
Okay, Madam Chairman, your
quorum is,
quorum is Ed, Michelle, Mike, Betsy, Tommy, and Tom.
but Ed, are you on the quorum? I thought you missed.
No, he's not, sorry. Wait a minute, let me, oh, wait, this isn't adding up. Hang on. Tom, Betsy, Mike, and Tommy. Okay. Ed's not, Courtney's not.
Michelle
Michelle
is.
is.
You didn't mention Michelle, though.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Five.
Yes, I did, Michelle. Ed, Michelle, Mike, Betsy, Tommy, Tom.
Okay, do you have any comments?
No.
Good evening again, Jack.
Not Ed, not Courtney. Sorry, Ed.
For the record, my name is Jack Underscully. I'm a civil engineer in private practice. This project's been before you 3 other times, I think. Anyways, in the last meeting, specific questions were asked, and
Jack, I need you to speak up so Susan
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I should also add that Mr. Doyle and Mr. Resnikoff is in the audience to answer any questions that might either be regarding the association and establish the association, or dealing with the association members, and or some other, I'll use the broad term, political issue. There was a number of things that were brought up, and let me address the obvious. We took core samples to determine the geology. They're in 3 locations. One here, which was inadvertently left off the plan, another one here, another one here. The significance being is we've identified 3 watershed areas, and we'll describe these as linear watershed areas that have sheet flow that, in general, go from east to west. The second is we determined where the groundwater is. Well, let me go back. The core samples were a very sandy loam, basically 8 inches deep, and then it went to a very coarse-grained sand, which if you were using the Title V standards would have been a 10YR64, that white sand that I'm sure Tom knows about. We also identified the watershed areas. We reestablished where the high points and low points were, and I've got to say that we made one design revision, and we're going to put a high point here. We also identified the high point over here at Station 2+50 in this high point. The next thing we did is we physically walked the property to determine watershed area. I already told you we defined the watershed areas, but just to give you an idea, these green arrows represent the direction of water flow. And to make a long story short, the road is higher than the surrounding area. I mean, in my opinion, it's a filled area. There may have been wetlands there at one time. We have wetlands on this side, so I'm inclined to believe that what happened is back in the 1600s, they went just to the opposite side of the dune system that's in here, found a path and followed it. They didn't go any further east because of the standing water. So they found a spot that served their purposes. Mr. Resnikoff and I had considerable discussion, which he shared with Mr. Doyle, who in turn shared with those people interested in this project as to what we could and couldn't do. And we listened to the board. The board discussed threw out a number of ideas. The short story is, what we proposed is we went back to the original design of a vegetated swale, and I provided some information about vegetated swales. And we decided in order to accomplish that, if you walk this property, you'll notice there's windrows on both sides. Windrow is defined as an area that's, if it's plowed, it sort of furrows up and builds this lip. The purpose of me telling you that is there's one pretty well established on this side, which also defines the limit of the watershed, but there's one on this side as well. Given the nature of the interaction between the association, preservation of individual rights, the concern that they may be imposing or they may be overusing a easement, implied or stated, by proposing drainage. What we did, as well as listening to you, is we decided to take 1.5 feet off the width of the road. Now, I said 1.5 feet off the width because I'm not going to debate whether it's an average of 19 feet wide or 20 feet wide, because as Betsy said, it kind of meanders in some spots. But in the spirit of working with the board, what we decided is we'd come in 1.5 feet. What happens is it takes a portion of the actual traveled way, and we will utilize a majority of this westerly side where the windrow is, and we were going to develop putting in swales at a 2-to-1 slope, 2 feet wide. And we established an elevation on the slopes, on the ditches, or the swales. We're using a vegetated mix that Jack Vaccaro has proposed. And we thought that this is the best design for a number of reasons. We determined where the groundwater is. We looked at the average elevation along here, and in fact, if you take a look at the area, we have wetlands, and then we have what I would call transition wetlands. In other words, if the ground was maybe 3/10 to a half a foot lower, that would have been a wetland too. I mean, we're that close. Groundwater elevation is 3.83. Well, what does that mean? You take an area like this low point, that's at 6.37. We have 2.5 feet vertical separation. Over here we have 5.34. So we have only 1.5 feet vertical separation. Purpose of telling you that is, you know, I reread the practices, the recommended stormwater practices. I looked at it. I tried to envision how can we build this and balance between the needs of the community, the needs of the stormwater management policies, and the practicality of building this. Because I made a decision early on that the best methodology would be to have 4 bays, to some type of weir system, to a ditch, to a vegetated swale. I also looked at whether or not we would have a wet swale versus a dry swale. And then I looked at what we would have to do to get that vegetated swale to become a wet swale. The wet swale means we'd have to lower the swales on the side, which means we would have to make them wider in order to maintain those 2-to-1 slopes, because as we've discussed, you don't want a V-swale. You would prefer a more trapezoidally shaped swale. So what we were doing is we were looking at all the nuances of stormwater management and at the same time trying to balance them with the needs of the community. And that's what we believe we've done. We divided it up into 3 areas. We calculated the first flush at a 1/2 inch, which is stated in there. Because we'd made a design assumption that it was total runoff, a 1-inch storm event, or one inch first flush, you would just double those capacities. And again, we assume this on a linear with sheet flow, and that the road is actually higher. Now, it's higher all except in these areas which we identified as dunes. And likewise, because these dunes are right by the road, we didn't propose swales because that would have necessitated excavating a larger portion of that dune area, and we didn't see that as being realistic. In addition to that, I thought about flipping it, but we've had conversations here about the merits of super elevation, and quite frankly, I'm of the opinion, keep it simple. So if we start off and maintain a super elevation, we know that it can get better chance of getting constructed properly than if we try to go super elevated to the west, flatten it off, go super elevated to the east, and we have certain transition problems. So what we wanted to do is keep it simple, stupid, the KISS system. And we sloped everything to the west. Area 3. The vegetated swales will be at 50% capacity at a 1/2 inch water quality flushing. Area B will be at 80% capacity, and area C, A, doesn't have enough capacity. It exceeded it. And part of that reason is because we just don't have enough lineal footage because of the wetland here and the wetland here and the little wetland there. And again, our thinking is we don't want to impose outside the footprint of the road because there's been a lot of dialogue that what rights does the association have to go outside this footprint. So that's more a political, social issue. It's not, but it's integrated into the engineering design. So those are the things we had considered at the time, the reasons why we proposed it this way. And I don't know if Mr. Doyle or Mr. Resnikoff has anything to offer about the conversations you had with the other members of the community here. If not, I'll take questions from the board.
Okay. Jack? Jen, any questions?
No.
Michelle, any questions?
Well, there's definitely a lot more information provided this time, thank you for doing that and showing us drainage areas and calculations and whatnot. You already answered one of my questions, which was the width of the swale, and you said it was gonna be 2 feet, the bottom width?
The bottom width,
Okay, and that's uniform for all the swales?
that's correct.
And you've provided a bottom elevation of the swale, are they to be level? Like, when it says
Yes,
5.4, is it flat?
It's basically going to be level, because as you know, this area is extraordinarily flat
Yes.
to begin with. And the
No,
reason
I'm-
why we segmented them, Michelle, is because of the vertical changes. In order to keep it so we had a retention area, we broke them up.
I'm happy with them flat, I was just checking. And then, in terms of when these are overtopped, particularly the ones that are undersized to start with, will there be a spillway on, I mean, how is it going to get out of the swale versus back onto the road? Typically, a swale will be designed with some sort of spillway that has at least 6-inch freeboard, so you're not literally filling it to the brim, you have some leeway.
Almost in every case, the bottom swale is 18 inches lower than the road profile, just about, except in one spot here where we're not at 100% capacity. We planned the swales basically to have an effective capacity of 1 foot, so it'd still be 6 inches lower than the road itself. So it rolls over into the swale, they fill up, and then what they're going to do is they're going to overtop. Now, I could put a weir at the end, except I didn't want to put a point discharge either. I'd rather have it overtop uniformly. Now,
As long as the lip of the swale has the structural integrity to withstand it overtopping along the whole length. Usually what happens with a spillway, it can be quite a wide spillway, but it's protected with some sort of stone or something that gives it structural so that when the water does pour over, if you have it over the whole length of the swale, you could have blowout of that berm, if you will, on the back side of the swale. So it's more of just kind of protecting the swale itself during those larger storm events.
I have 2 answers for that. The first, I can't answer it. I think Mr. Doyle and Mr. Resnikoff can, and that is, and especially in this case, make it wider. That's the first thing, so we have better storage capacity. The second is, at the end of these, I can modify it and put a spillway. So when it reaches capacity, we have an area that can discharge and not be erosive.
Yeah, I don't need it necessarily, I understand, I'm not saying right now that it needs to be wider. I'm just saying that wherever it's going to overflow should have some sort of reinforcement. And if it's the whole back length of the entire swale, it just has to be constructed properly. So one or the other. That was one of my bigger concerns. And then you calculated based on the 1/2 inch, and I was just curious why you didn't look at the 1 inch.
Well,
Just because you didn't have it?
No, it's because it's double, because we assume everything was a sheet flow and there was no percolation. And I suppose I should have just told you that it would have been double the volume and shown that on the calculations. I was also fixated on the idea that I was at 80% capacity and over 100% capacity at 1/2 inch, and I got thinking, and 1 inch flow was still contained within this particular drainage area because we were at 50% capacity.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make the point that, particularly in this area, it's a very critical area. Typically, if this were a new project, you would be looking at a treatment volume based on the 1 inch. So I just wanted the board to understand. Obviously, this is redevelopment, and we are trying to do the best we can at the site. So just keep that in mind with there's one swale that can't handle the 1/2 inch, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
That's this one down here.
And my only concern with that is if it really is, it has a larger drainage area to it, then it can handle, I mean, it's just gonna get trashed more frequently. I mean, it might need more maintenance, basically.
Yeah, one of the things
That's
one of
just
the
what I
things we
said.
did
Yeah.
to
We have to
interject is
condition
we said
certain
there'll be
ones to have more
quarterly
maintenance.
inspections.
Yeah,
Quarterly inspections, the other is, in order to save the shoulder, we recommended that it be staked in the spring, in their spring inspection, in the time when they anticipate the heaviest use of this area, we recommended that they actually put a barrier here. Now, Bill and I talked about it, and what we're recommending is every 33 feet, just putting a bean pole in that's painted orange or something to give the owners of this area something to focus, like the white stripe on the ground.
I think that's a good idea, because I wouldn't want, particularly if during construction, you do end up with steeper slopes out there, which I hope is not the case, but you don't want people running off into these swales. So I think
It's just a visual aid or a visual tool, so they can
Okay.
remember to stay on the road.
So, I mean, these, you're not quite in the groundwater with these, but I would consider them, I mean, they're basically going to be wet swales, which I think is a good thing. The vegetation that's going to be planted them are basically wetland plants, so you can think of these as kind of linear wetlands of sorts. And I think we just need to, as part of your maintenance, understand that the one that is undersized might not be as aesthetically pleasing, and it might need more maintenance.
Right.
So as long as everyone is aware of that.
Because I think Bill's the one you have to tell. He's the one in charge, aren't you?
Yeah, as of right now, but
Yeah.
no.
Well, you can pass on this knowledge to the next
Okay.
lucky
Yeah.
person.
I mean, like you said, there's not a lot of opportunity here to do pre-treatment, and so typically for these, you would have some sort of sediment forebay or something that would capture a lot of the heavier debris before it reached the swale, and in this case, you don't have that, so there's gonna be a lot more maintenance
I did
required.
look at it. I mean, the obvious solution is raise the road a foot, but we don't want to do that. I mean.
No, I mean, you
so
might have-
I
you
say
might-
that jokingly, I mean.
You might have sacrificial areas on either ends of the swales where they're receiving perhaps more concentrated runoff from either end, where they could kind of function a little bit more like sediment forebays. Whereas the center of the swale will mainly get just sheet flow from that section it's next adjacent, whereas the ends will be getting from both sides. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, it does make sense. I
Okay, so
understand.
maybe kind of think of those as acting as pre-treatment.
Yeah, we had some physical obstructions. We have a driveway here, we had to break it because of that. But it also made sense because of the slight changes in the elevation. There's also a couple utilities that are either, I think there's one right here, and I think there's another one right here, which create a little bit of a problem. But, which is another reason why we thought of a vegetated swale versus a wet swale, because I just don't know how deep those utilities are.
And by vegetated swale, you gave us a design sheet that lists two swales, a dry swale and a wet swale, neither of which are what you're referring to as a vegetated swale. So if you were expecting it to be a different practice, what exactly do you mean?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I gave that as literature. I may have also omitted one of the pages that I wanted to submit. Because
I
wanted
think
to
it's going to
submit-
be a wet swale. It may not always have standing water, but let's just go a wet swale, because you don't meet the criteria for a dry swale. So I think that's just semantics. And I was happy to see that you have removable speed bumps. I'll be curious to see how that works and how, if they get, wow. Oh, those are, oh, okay. Well, then you already know how they work. Excellent.
And then I think they're going to post a sign to reduce speed as well. So they listen to
Gentlemen.
They listen to your comment. I think we've done the best we can given the restricted nature of the area.
No more questions.
And we're hoping we can move forward.
Tom?
This, as I said before, started off on a stub toe. I think we've come light years in a fairly short period of time. There's a lot of doom and gloom about this process that I think has been alleviated. I think that all parties involved have reached out and tried to assist one another, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the expertise on this board. because that's a lot of this, thank you, Michelle, because a lot of that is over my head. And the speed bump thing, you've got an advocate to help you slow people down out there. You know, there's a lot of us out there that don't want to have, you know, families walking to the beach and such. And that, you know, this comment could be directed to FedEx and UPS and our local oil companies and gas distributors and disposal companies and all that affiliated people that, you know, we don't want you driving fast. And please, I've done it numerous times, called the owners of these establishments and let them know. So I think once this is in a maintenance routine, where it's good, you're gonna be doing less and less of it. The bulk of this is gonna hit, it's gonna be obstruction, it's gonna be a getting used to, the little, as Michelle said, the markers on the side, just to help focus people. And this will become the good habit that we need to have to be able to make this just a renewable notice from here forward. That's it.
Mike?
I believe it's a significant improvement, that great efforts have been made to comply with the intent. I would encourage some observations after that first 3-inch, 4-inch rainfall, that first, whatever you get, and see where it does overtop if it does, and be sure that, you know, we're not. And then with that observations, make minor modifications as you need to.
Tweak the system.
Tweak the
Once you
system.
see how it works.
Yeah.
Be prepared to tweak it. Tommy?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, my only, I don't have any questions except to say, the maintenance of these, I know you want to get rid of that job, but you have it right now, is critical. And I think Mike's suggestion is really good. Keep, you know, make some observations. We might even put this in the order of conditions. Take some pictures after these major storms. So, you know, this has been a long process for everybody. You're going to be putting a lot of money into this. You want it to work, and we want it to work. And, you know, I think we'll give you some suggestions as to how to keep it working properly. And there are several of us who are out there sort of regularly, and so when it's being built, you know, make sure that whoever the contractor is knows to put a DEP sign up and knows to follow the proper protocol, because some of us will be out to visit at some point. But we'd like to see this work for all of us involved. So do we need any further questions? Any further information? We're ready?
Motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Any questions, any comments? Yes.
I have, with Dan Shearer, I own my property at 45 Neckbars Road. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by the plans and the work for a road that was laid out by the town in 1688. I have walked that road and been on it since, 1952, when I was 15. I walk it now in front of my land, which is the worst part there. And we have a nice berm on the east side, which protects it from the pond that was damaged or badly by not this one, but a previous conservation and Ray Massey. Because what thing we're trying to save in there, I would think, in my area, would be the pond that now is going downhill very badly because the town decided Hurricane Carol cracked the culvert that we used to walk or crawl through. And when that pond was filled with cohogs grass was kind of nice, but it fell after Hurricane Carol. I don't know how many of you were around in Hurricane Carol, but probably not too many, which is, you're lucky. Hurricane Bob really crushed it. And we put in, instead of building a culvert back again, we put in a pipe, which clogs up all the time, so there's no flow into that pond at all. That's what's hurting any vegetation or anything else in there. It's become brackish, it smells, it's not very good. We also have a very good mosquito path or through the trench, which I don't see on the map here, which gets a lot of water in it, and what the mosquito people come and spray it. So I just wonder, well, with these things you want to put in, what's going to happen to mosquitoes? Is that going to be a big draw to them?
It would be if they're not maintained properly.
Well, what do you mean by maintain properly? I mean, I'm sure, I don't really know. I mean, you're going to dig out part of the ground, you're going to go into sand dunes and move them a bit, which I think is going to do more damage than anything that what the runoff is doing. So I don't understand why we're doing all this work. I haven't seen any damage there at all. I think the growth around the road is anything but being hurt. It grows too fast. But that's my opinion. I also, seeing that a lot of this road is owned by the town, are they going to take responsibility for it? Is that part of the deal? For instance, I don't own any of that road.
That's not, our responsibility is to make a decision on projects that come before us.
Okay.
The applicants who come before us give us a project, we look at the project, we look at the Wetlands Protection Act, and we try to condition that project properly to best protect the resources. If you have a question about property ownership, this isn't the place to take it up.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking the question.
Well, and that's my answer.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
But I still, okay, I'm going to give up.
Steve. Good evening.
Good evening. Steve Doyle, 28 Gilbert Lane, West Falmouth. So just to try to put an end to close this off, I thought I'd just say a few words from the association. So I appreciate the comments you made about our efforts to try to comply with the regulations and try to provide a good project. I also want to assure you that what Tom was saying about people driving fast and all the rest of it, that is one of the top concerns of the community already. I mean, we're completely in sync, and we also do make calls to different utilities that are going down too fast and so forth. So I think, all the things that you just mentioned are things that we're already on our own agendas. So it's completely, we're completely aligned is the point. So aside from that, I just appreciate the time and effort, and I think, I hope that we can move forward and get this project done, and we'll make sure we maintain it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Are there any further comments from the board? From the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. And same comment to all of you. If you have any discussion, either out the door or out around the corner. Thank you very much. Rose and Robert Murphy?
Madam Chair, I need to recuse myself.
Okay. 23 Green Pond Road, East Falmouth. Courtney's recusing himself. Request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP number 253863, to modify the house reconstruction with 2 additions, a new entry and stair tower, and other modifications. Tom, good evening.
Good evening. I'll check my notes and see what the other modifications are.
I know.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker, BSS Design. This plan was before you back a couple of months ago or more. You have the approved plan here, and as I open in my narrative, one of the conditions that's affecting a lot of people is the cost of construction these days. The plan which was approved was a fairly ambitious plan with a tear down of the house, and making the house larger, tear down the garage, make the garage larger, have a connector breezeway between the 2 structures, and take down some trees and put in lots of mitigation planting, 3,600 square feet of mitigation planting. That was basically the tipping point right there, as much as could have been put on the site. They did get all the cost estimates in for the construction, and have rethought it, redesigned it, a much more modest proposal before you now on this plan here. You have the existing house, which will stay. What they want to do is take the house off of it, add a second floor, and it's not, I guess, not structurally sound. Too much plumbing and wiring and insulation, everything would have to be redone. So you take the house off of it, put a cap on it's a block foundation, put a cap on the block foundation to raise it up about 16 inches with some rebar in it. And then build on the same footprint with a few additions. Before I go into that, though, I'll say I submitted a letter afterwards, a contractor, more. So look at the foundation. As sometimes happens, they find that the foundation maybe is not the foundation that they thought it was. So actually, like, built into this, the ability to take out the foundation also, put in a new foundation in exactly the same footprint as the existing, probably with the exception of the stairwell up in the front, which will be new foundation. This addition here would be on footings and columns. The stairwell here was going to be on a frost wall. It would be a new foundation anyway. This addition right here is in the footprint of the existing deck. This little bit right here is an enclosure of I think it's the kitchen dining area, or kitchen area right here. That will be on footings and posts. Have an elevation here. This is right here. It's on the existing deck, but there'll just be 2 columns here, so it'll remain open underneath it the way it is now. This part right here is the stairwell and the addition here. So we have these 2 additions that are larger outside the existing footprint, but they're on, not closer to the resource area. But as it does happen, they're within the riverfront area. I'll get into that. Actually, get more mitigation being here. If that addition was on the far side, one thing, it wouldn't work architecturally. It's not where they want it to be. But also be less mitigation put in. It'd be 2-to-1 back here. It's 3-to-1 mitigation in this location. This is deck across here, and these stairs coming down are within the footprint of the deck. The only area that's sort of coming closer to the resource area because of the change in grade. We have steps coming down. This would be landscape type, timber crib work with crushed stone in there to get down to the lower level. The asphalt there now, which is for one not, it's too steep to be safe, and it promotes a lot of drainage runoff going right down there. So you have this corner of the house right here, there's a lot of runoff going down the bank. So this kind of formalizing, put in a landing and some steps coming down, another landing at the bottom, will, for one, keep people from going over the bank there, but also keep water from going over the bank. And this actually does not get closer. The closest point, I think, is 3.8 feet to the top of the bank. It's not getting closer than its closest point is already. It's also not getting closer to the wetland or the riverfront. It's just kind of being squared off. So there's a compilation here of, there's a few more square feet here and there of additional degraded area being created by squaring this off. But I think the benefits of focusing the travel, having steps rather than a sheet flow down asphalt will be better. In addition, there'll be planting up across there, which will help protect the coastal bank. This area is 650 square feet of sort of required planting based on the increase in impervious and degraded area. And this is additional planting around the top of the bank to vegetate the top of the bank and to do a little bit of mitigation just for this increased degraded area, as I said, is taken care of here, and that's just extra planting. It's not officially part of the mitigation. The drainage, as it was before, is just with the stone drip strips going around 2 feet wide with stone, so the water will just infiltrate down. 2 little areas of gutter. One is over the doorway right here. There's a little bit of gutter area which will be carried by pipe. As on the previous proposal, there's a lower patio under here. And this will be rebuilt with a frost wall and backfilled with, will be the drainage stone kind of stuff. And there'll be a flexible pipe running from this bit of gutter down into there. Roof runoff from this side of the house will fall onto the upper deck, and then you'll go through the slats onto this lower deck, which will actually be the stone and other wooden deck surface built on top of it. So that'll be pervious. The water will through into it. This bit of the addition will also have a little bit gutter, and that will be piped into the same stone area under the patio. So I feel this is, being in the riverfront area, this is obviously much less aggressive. I think it's easier on the site. It's easier on their pocketbook also. And I feel this is a better project for everyone. I'll take questions.
Thanks. Jen?
No questions, Doc. I talk to you quite often about this project.
Yeah.
Ed?
I don't have a single one.
Not a single one.
No questions.
No questions. No questions.
I'm just, sir, essentially, you're saying remove house. You're demolishing everything but the foundation.
Plan was everything but the foundation, and reinforce and increase the height of the foundation by about 16 inches.
And do you know how old this block structure is?
We probably have in here the town as a date for when the house was built. I'd have to look through, and offhand, I don't know.
Like the 70s type of? I'm just real suspect that, we're given a caveat that, yeah, you could take the foundation out. I don't know why you're not just, I see a whole lot of effort going with a 16-inch cap.
Well, I think, I think in effect it will be taken out. I mean, I sort of asked, revising the request, I was told I can't remember how it was described, but it's not a good full block foundation. It would take a lot of work to fix it.
Yeah, and that's
they would
where.
like, when they get a little bit further into it, rather than coming back to you, they kind of like the permission now, so I think it will be removed and rebuilt if we get that permission.
I mean, that's the request.
Right.
That's the request in
Yes,
the
in
letter.
the letter.
It is, but I just want to be absolutely, I don't understand why people hesitate.
Well, there's only, as I say in there, I mean, I could have, that's sort of a request to amend the request. You didn't have that information about the foundation when I filed this for.
And I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you're prepared for the inevitable. I believe that is exactly what's going to happen, that's going to be substandard. That's it. Thank you.
Mike?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Wanna make a motion?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second?
Madam Chairman, make sure that letter gets back into the record, please.
Right here, ready to go back. We'll move Mike's thing so it gets enclosed in the right place.
Thank you,
Jan.
Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jen, motion and a second on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Any final questions here? Any questions from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, vote, order of conditions, Town of Falmouth, Water Quality Management Committee, care of Steve Rafferty, although now we've changed it, care of Julian Suso, I do believe.
Town of Falmouth, yes.
Little Pond Estuary in the west end of Narragansett Avenue, East Falmouth. Jen,
Yes, Madam Chairman,
quorum? Everybody but Courtney and
hold on.
Mario.
I believe that is correct.
Really, it's gonna be the last one I see. Ed, Ed, Michelle, Mike, Betsy, Tommy.
And Tom.
Tom wasn't there the first one?
No, but we had to
Put
reopen.
it-
Oh,
had
we
to
reopened it, so
reset
Ed,
the
Michelle,
quorum.
Mike, Betsy, Tom, and Tommy, yeah, everybody but Court,
And Mario.
and Mario. We all know what the project entails, it's part of the comprehensive wastewater management plan and looking at ways at reducing nitrogen within the town of Falmouth. This particular demonstration project, that plan encompasses both traditional wastewater and the use of demonstration projects to try to meet the TMDLs that have been established by the Massachusetts Estuary Program. Those will all be findings. This particular demonstration project is to grow up to 2.5 million oysters in Little Pond and evaluate the success of that operation in reducing nitrogen in the pond. Some of the concerns, so that's all in your findings. I think another important thing to have in your findings, Madam Chairman, you wrote me some notes on this, is that there has been a lot of discussion on why the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over this particular project. And I think the findings need to clearly articulate the resource areas and the performance standards on those resource areas, including changes into surface water quality. I think that's really important to get out there going forward with these types of demonstration projects, so the public realizes that this board does have jurisdiction when you're changing surface water quality and impacting surface water quality. We'll talk about Little Pond. The tidal turnover rate is part of the findings, the work associated with caring for the oysters, the operation and plan, the fact that the Water Quality Committee has provided a storm management plan, that'll be a finding. the water quality parameters that have already been tested for, and the results of those monitoring efforts will be a finding, as well as the additional water quality the applicant is proposing to address some of the concerns of this board. I think your special conditions, you'll have different sections. I think some of the simplest or some of the basic special conditions are going to look at the access point onto Little Pond, Narragansett Street, whether or not that area is going to be impacted. There'll be certain conditions established so that area isn't impacted, that the drainage pipe going into Narragansett is protected while they're moving that,
The entrance.
access, the boat, the skiff, over that pipe. There will be no landing. I don't think this board wants to see a landing. As far as being able to bring a trailer through there, I think the Water Quality Committee did state in their presentation it will be they will manually put that skiff in the water. So that is going to be a special condition, as well as any staking out that edge of vegetation and making sure everyone knows where it is, that they have enough room to operate. I mean, if you go down there, we want to make sure they do have enough room to operate, but at the end of this, if there is an end, that area is reestablished. So that will be carefully detailed out. I think under sampling, and I think this was discussed, that all the past data from the School of Marine Science and Technology needs to be submitted to this board, analyzed and submitted to this board, and not just submitted reams of raw data. It needs to be analyzed, compiled, and submitted to us in report form. Two, that they establish 2 additional sampling periods to those already proposed, and that they test for temperature, salinity, dissolved oxygen, and turbidity in early winter and late spring and throughout that time period. That, and we have certain conditions we want to put on that sampling, how the data loggers are installed and what they're testing for, and that the applicant, and I'm sure you're going to love to come back to talk to us, Steve, comes and gives us a presentation each January on the data that was collected the prior year, so that we can determine whether or not this is being successful.
Well, our concern is what changes there are to the water
changes,
quality.
but I mean, we also want to see the project succeed. I mean, that's the ultimate goal of the town, is to have this reduced nitrogen. So I think a presentation each January by the Water Quality Committee, whomever that may be, you should have a presentation.
Yeah, and Steve, you mentioned, and since you graciously offered, we would like to know what changes took place in water quality, and but also you said that you were going to be compiling information on growth of the oysters and so forth, that you had to do it anyway and we would certainly be interested in that information as well.
So I don't think any of the findings of the special conditions, some of the ones that I've jotted down, are any surprise to this board or the Water Quality Committee. It's things that were discussed, concerns that this board had that were discussed, sampling criteria, concerns that this board had that were discussed, and we'll move forward.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
No. You can't. I'm talking to you, but you can't talk to us. Afterwards, we can talk about it. I did go over all the information on my trip to Buffalo, and I was a little surprised to see that in the sampling that was done last year, there were no, well, I shouldn't say there were no, but let's say there was a lot of missing data points for dissolved oxygen and temperature and turbidity. And I don't expect, for our purposes, it's not necessarily necessary to collect those every 2 weeks at all the stations, but just to be consistent with past pond watcher data, if, we'd like to see those data for the head, L1, L2, and L3, right? Yeah. And the other aspect is, so there's two sets of data collection. One is these every 2 week periods at, I think you have, what, 7 stations or 9 stations, with those additional parameters at the 4 stations. And then also, the data loggers should be, we talked about that. I think at least initially, they should be downloaded weekly. And so that we can track sort of events that may be of concern, and we may be able to correlate those with the growth data that you're going to be having. And my only other big concern was the area where this work's going to be taking place in Narragansett Street. And I'd like the board to sort of comment on, I think there's going to be a truck coming in there, and there's going to be a boat unloaded. There's going to be work with the bags, changing them from one size bag to the next size bag. And I just have a feeling that whole area might get a little bit muddy and trampled and so forth. And just, we might just require some, what are those, what I call Tootsie Roll logs?
Silt socks.
Silt socks, just to protect that edge of the pond. And Ed, you actually brought something up, and yes, but it was something we were wondering about in storm events, if we could get some samples of the water that's just adjacent to the pipe.
Yeah.
And maybe have those analyzed, especially for nutrients. I mean, here's a perfect, sort of spot check on how much is coming in that way. I think, yeah, my suggestion, I think, is to protect the storm drain completely.
Yeah.
Just, have
Cover it.
orange flagging around it, and make a new entrance to the pond. And just, a lot of our projects take pictures before and after, so we can at least have some visual idea of if any restoration needs to be done. That's it. Anybody else had any other conditions? Ed? Michelle? Tom? Mike?
When the data comes in, if there's something saying is wrong with the pond, put it into the quack so the person who collects it comes back, so we don't learn about it after the fact. Yeah, that's fine.
No special conditions.
No further special conditions?
No further special conditions from me.
Oh, yes, you have one?
No.
Oh,
Motion to close. Actually,
no, we've already
motion
closed. We've already closed
Motion
to approve.
the order as discussed.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Did I say all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
One
We-
more gentleman, and then we can have.
We
a
look
discussion.
forward to seeing the
Talk to you in a
results.
Okay, Madam Chairman.
We just lost someone for 2 minutes.
Oh,
Anybody want to take anybody else
well,
want to take a
wait a
2-minute
minute.
break? Mike's on all of
Mike,
them.
we don't particularly need Mike for,
Mill Road?
no,
Okay, Raymond and Ann Carlin, 374 Mill Road.
that was the garage, that was the small addition. Oh, Ed, Michelle. Michelle, Mike, Betsy, Tommy, and Tom. That was the small addition under the 200 square feet in the velocity zone in the garage. The small addition meets your regulations. It's the garage that the board needs to have a discussion on.
The garage does not compare.
Well, the garage is in the velocity zone, another structure within the velocity zone
Actually,
with sheer walls.
it's not covered at all by the regulations.
No. So.
I mean, it's just sort of a gap in the regulations, because the regulations talk about a 200 square foot addition on the primary structure.
Well, it does say additional, any structure has to be on open pilings.
Right,
So-
right.
So. What
So
would the
do
board
we
like
want to
do?
say open pilings?
But then the garage would just be open, it would be a carport. Because
Well,
I
that's
don't
the-
understand.
that's the choice.
I think we should deny the garage.
The choice of breakaway panels in a garage, the car's going to be in there.
Well, I know.
Yeah, I don't see how that would work.
Ed, we can't just deny the garage. It doesn't say you can't have anything, it says it has to be on open pilings.
Yeah. You've done that before, the board has, in the past, I'm thinking of 2 different projects, required the garage structure to be a carport versus a garage, so that water is allowed to flow through.
Can
Yeah,
read
I
from
mean,
10
it's-
Can I read from 10.38?
You may.
4D says, activities resumed,
What wise here?
you have negative impacts, construction of new structures, including buildings, sheds, and garages.
10.38,
And you,
give it to me again. 10.38 for
4D.
well, I can go back to the.
4D1.
I can go back to the beginning on 10.383, the presumptions. And was it 3?
Actually, Ed, you had it.
B.
No, Ed, you had it.
Ed, you had it. Construction of new structures, including buildings, sheds, garages, additions of substantial improvements to existing structures. You had it, and that says, the proposed project within a velocity zone shall not destroy or otherwise impair the function of any portion of said landform and shall not have an adverse effect on the adjacent wetland resources, activities in their ancillary uses in velocity zones which result in alterations to vegetative cover, interruptions to supply of sediment to other wetland resource areas, and changes to the form or volume of a dune or beach will have adverse effects on a landform's ability to provide storm damage prevention and flood control, and therefore are prohibited. These activities include, but are not limited to, the construction of buildings, sheds, garages, and everything. So if you think any of those issues are in play, then that particular proposed garage under your regulations would be prohibited. But you have to look at the language of the regulation.
Well, there is an
I mean,
existing shed there.
To have a 200
Yeah.
square foot limitation on additions, and then
And then allow a garage.
And then allow all sorts of other new structures to be constructed.
Oh, absolutely.
Makes absolutely no sense.
But you're
Oh,
right. I mean, there is a
agree.
shed.
There is a shed,
And
but it's
so the
much smaller.
Well, it is smaller, but the question is, if this is just, if this,
Well, we don't know if that.
If the shed was
If
permitted.
the shed was ever permitted. We've been
You
shown
should have asked that-
various
you
photographs.
should have
and
asked that
the
question.
photographs were not very conclusive, and one of the photographs, the key one, wasn't blown up to the same dimensions as some later photographs. So I don't think the onus is on the applicant to demonstrate that the thing actually somehow pre-existed, and I have not seen that convincing evidence to that effect. Now, I would go so far as to in this order, not necessarily require removal of the existing shed. And that's a generous,
nice of you, Ed.
to my mind, that's sort of a generous step here.
I mean, it certainly does show up in the areas, but it doesn't go that far back, so we
Yeah,
don't.
but it's what,
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah, but
No,
my-
What would
there.
the board like to do?
Well, why don't
Wait,
we-
The addition is, the
Wait a
addition's
second.
fine.
What I want to say is, my point is, a roof on pilings in a velocity zone would be better than the existing shed. That existing shed's gonna be spread all over the neighborhood if it gets hit.
Well, then you should require its removal.
Well,
You can't require any new
in-
construction in a velocity zone.
If,
There's a 200 square foot limitation.
if that was your view of the structure with the roof line, I would have to say that a structure that meets the building code would be equally as unobtrusive. I don't see a substantial benefit between the construction of the open pile in this setting and one that has a flood panel or
I'm not
Other type
proposing,
of-
I'm not proposing panels,
I-
I'm proposing open pilings.
And I'm just saying that what is before us is something that does have, you made mention about the storm panels,
And you're saying,
that
you're agreeing with Ed that something with storm panels, which is what's in front of us, would be more,
is better than the shed that's there.
is better than the shed?
I don't mind seeing a structure with the storm panels.
I do.
But I don't think it's a question of what we mind, it's a question of what the regulations require.
I don't see it being,
The 200 square feet is just, where does it say that?
You don't even want them to get into that 200.
So what you're really saying, well, there's 200 square feet, but if you want to separate something from the main structure, then you just go and build whatever you want.
No, I'm just
And
saying,
that, of course, makes absolutely no sense.
well, thanks, Ed. Thanks for putting words into my mouth. That is not what I'm saying.
Good.
I'm weighing the various alternatives as to how we might condition this project, which is what we're supposed to do when we
Correct.
vote.
Okay, guys, you approve the addition, you either don't approve the garage, you approve it as proposed, or you approve it in open pilings and make it more of a carport thing, which is not what I think the applicant had envisioned. Those are your three options.
make a motion to
Somebody make a motion, yeah.
accept the proposed addition as per plan and an open piling footprinted structure to the south, whatever they want to call it, garage, carport, whatever.
I'm confused, is that as shown on the plan?
As shown on this footprint, but just as an open piling with a roof structure.
Okay, so not as proposed, because as proposed, it
Footprint as
specifically says
proposed.
breakaway panels won't be installed and enclose the garage.
Okay, I don't know how to word that.
That's
better.
what I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure I
you-
understood
you
what
are-
you
You are correct.
No,
It's
you
not
want
as-
open pilings with no breakaway panels, Tom, is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm proposing, yes.
Okay, then that's the way I'll write it up, but.
But I'm gonna go back, before we have a second, I'm gonna go back, because notwithstanding the provisions of 1038-4A through E, the commission may approve small additions to an existing structure, provided all the other provisions are met. Well, there is an existing structure, it probably wasn't, well, it should have been permitted through Concom, probably wasn't, the shed. But we already have a 200-foot addition to the house,
Yeah, you
so we
can't have
can't
more than
really
one.
have
Yeah.
a further addition.
That's correct.
So I would say no on the,
Well, you want to vote on
Tom?
That's what Tom's saying. It's more
Well,
of a
but-
just an open piling, no breakaway panels.
I don't want open piling, I don't
Yeah,
want
I'd like
something,
to- I'd like to
because
propose
it's
a different amendment.
increasing.
I'd like to propose a different motion.
Well,
but-
no, but that's the positive motion, and then we either.
When you vote on it, and
Yes
then you
or
propose
no.
something
That's
else.
kind of where I was going with this.
Yeah,
I didn't word it correctly.
no, it's okay.
I'll second Tom's motion.
All
All
right,
right.
vote on it. Tom's motion is to, and correct me if I'm
Okay.
wrong, Tom, approve the addition and approve a
I don't
open
want
piling
to be in the
carport type
position of
structure.
denying it and then not being able to go back and approve some of it.
Should we separate it
So
from the
I would
addition?
rather have this withdrawn.
I'm
I would rather
withdrawing my
have a-
motion.
Okay,
I wish we had had this argument
Withdraw your-
when Mike was here.
withdraw your.
No, we're deliberating now.
It's not, Mike doesn't have to,
I know, well,
he doesn't have to be part of this
I
discussion.
understand that, but it would have been,
Do I need a second on the withdrawal of my motion?
Yeah, could you withdraw your?
I withdraw my second.
And now somebody can put
I'd like to
together
make
something.
Wait a second, let Susan catch up to this.
Sorry.
It's okay, Tom. You were trying to
It's
move
just,
the
it's
process
just
along.
cleaner, it's just cleaner this way.
That's fine.
Yes, Ed?
I move to accept the project as proposed with the exception of the garage. And one of the special conditions would also be then, I guess what I'm hearing, is removal of the unpermitted shed.
Well, that is part of the project, actually, so
Well, that's
that
part
part's
of it,
fine.
right, okay.
We don't need a special condition.
All right.
They're allowed to remove it.
And the rationale, of course, because that garage is an addition, that's well in addition to all the limitation of the 200 square feet.
Well, you could,
Right.
you could argue that it's an addition, I mean, it's increasing the footprint of the shed, but we've already increased a footprint of something
Right.
On the property.
on the property.
And you only get one 200-foot
Right,
addition.
right.
As of the effective date of the regulations.
We need a second,
Which was
guys.
310 the year
Second.
2000.
Right. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Is everybody with us?
Additions
To accept the
in,
project
garage
as-
is out.
As proposed, but no garage. Okay, that's the motion, second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I need to raise a hand on the,
Ayes. The positives.
positives. Okay. And.
4
the-
positives, 2 negatives.
2 against, okay. The other 2 will vote next week, Madam Chairman. So you can adjourn.
Wait,
Oh,
can we?
yes. Oh,
No, we can't. There's one that's 77 Bournes Pond Road.
you are not here?
No, I'm saying it
Says
has a date
5/1,
of.
it has
No,
a date
that's
of
wrong. You
5/1.
closed that last
Okay,
week.
just
Remember the terrace?
Terrace?
Open terrace, Bournes Pond, the lattice
A
work.
pergola?
Pergola, what did she
no.
call, arbor?
Yeah, the one
or-
that,
What did you call
It's
it?
a pergola.
Yeah, it's a pergola.
pergola.
That was last week.
That was last-
That's a misprint, but thank you for catching that, Michelle.
Okay, who wants the privilege of,
Move to adjourn.
thank you,
Second.
Courtney.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Gentlemen, you can hold up 1 second. I know you want to talk. Oh, that's fine.